I never meant to fall in love with a man who carried death in his pocket like loose change. But standing in Vincent Romano's bedroom at 2 a.m., holding my daughter's pink blanket in trembling hands, I realized love was the least of my problems. The question wasn't how I'd gotten here. It was whether I'd survive what came next. My name is Chloe Bennett, and this is the story of how I went from invisible nanny to the woman who brought a mafia empire to its knees. Not with bullets or betrayal, but with something far more dangerous, the truth. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to where it really started. Not in that bedroom, but 6 months earlier, in a hospital waiting room where my entire world collapsed in the span of a single phone call. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead like dying bees, casting everything in that particular shade of institutional despair that only hospitals manage to perfect. I sat in a plastic chair that had molded itself to accommodate 1,000 other desperate bodies, my phone pressed so hard against my ear I'd have a bruise by morning. "I'm sorry, Ms. Bennett," the bank representative said, her voice professionally sympathetic in that way that meant she'd delivered this news before and would deliver it again. "But without collateral or a cosigner, we simply cannot approve the loan." Through the window of the ICU, I could see my daughter Emma, 3 years old and fighting for her life against a congenital heart defect that had decided now, of all times, to become critical. The tubes and wires connecting her to machines that beeped and hummed made her look even smaller than she was. "Please," I whispered, hating how broken I sounded. "She's 3 years old. The surgery costs $180,000. I've been saving, I have $12,000, I understand this is difficult," the woman interrupted gently, "but our hands are tied. Perhaps you could reach out to family?" Family. The word tasted like ash in my mouth. My parents had made their position clear 2 years ago when I'd shown up at their door, 7 months pregnant and alone. My father hadn't even let me inside. "You made your choice, Chloe," he'd said, his voice cold as January frost. "You threw away your education, your future, everything we sacrificed for you. For what? Some boy who didn't even stick around?" "She's your granddaughter," I'd pleaded, one hand on my swollen belly. "She's your mistake," my mother had said from behind him. "And mistakes have consequences." The door had closed in my face. I hadn't spoken to them since. Now, sitting in this hospital with my daughter's life hanging by a thread, I had nowhere left to turn. No family, no friends wealthy enough to help, no options except the ones I was terrified to consider. The classified ad had been circulating in the break room at the diner where I worked double shifts, live-in nanny needed. Excellent pay, private room, all expenses covered. Immediate placement required. Discretion essential. The salary listed was more than I made in 6 months. My coworker Maria had laughed when she saw me staring at it. "That's Vincent Romano's ad," she'd said, lowering her voice like speaking his name too loudly might summon him. "You know, the Vincent Romano. Word is he's looking for someone to watch his nephew or something. Nobody wants the job, though. Working for a man like that?" She'd made the sign of the cross. "You might as well sell your soul to the devil himself." I'd thrown the ad away. But now, watching Emma's tiny chest rise and fall with mechanical assistance, I dug through the trash can in the hospital cafeteria until I found it, smoothing out the crumpled paper with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. Sometimes the devil is the only one offering what you need. The Romano estate sat behind iron gates like a beautiful prison, all manicured lawns and old money architecture that whispered of power and consequences. I'd taken 3 buses to get here, my interview outfit, a dress I'd borrowed from Maria, already wilted from nervous sweat. A man built like a concrete wall answered the door. "Ms. Bennett?" I nodded, unable to find my voice. "ID." It wasn't a request. He scanned my driver's license with a device I didn't recognize, then gestured for me to follow him through hallways that smelled of lemon polish and something darker I couldn't quite name. Expensive cologne. Gunpowder. Danger. Vincent Romano's office was exactly what I'd expected and nothing like it at the same time. Dark wood, leather furniture, the kind of artwork that probably cost more than my entire life. But there were also photographs on his desk, a young boy with dark curls and Vincent's green eyes, frozen in laughter. Vincent himself stood by the window, his back to me, phone pressed to his ear. I don't care about his excuses, Marco. He had one job. One. And now we're short $200,000 because he couldn't keep his mouth shut. A pause. No. Make it look like an accident. His family doesn't need to suffer for his stupidity. He hung up and turned, and I forgot how to breathe. Vincent Romano was beautiful in the way knives are beautiful, all sharp edges and lethal grace. Mid-30s, dark hair touched with silver at the temples, eyes that saw through skin straight to bone. He wore a suit that probably cost more than Emma's surgery, and he moved like violence wrapped in silk. Ms. Bennet. His voice was smooth, cultured. Thank you for coming. Thank you for seeing me, I managed, hating how my voice shook. He gestured to a chair and I sat, perched on the edge like a bird ready to fly. Vincent settled behind his desk, steeping his fingers as he studied me with unnerving intensity. Your resume is interesting, he said. 3 years at State University, dropped out. Since then, you've worked at, he glanced at a paper, 7 different establishments. Waitress, cashier, retail, cleaning services. None longer than 8 months. Why? Because every time someone asked if I had children, their eyes would fill with pity when I explained about Emma's condition. Because I couldn't afford to get attached anywhere when I needed flexibility for hospital visits. Because I was drowning and couldn't let anyone see. I was finding my footing, I said instead. He leaned back. You have a 3-year-old daughter. Emma. Congenital heart defect requiring immediate surgical intervention. My blood ran cold. How do you? I know everything about everyone who enters my home, Ms. Bennet. Your daughter is currently at St. Mary's Hospital. You need $180,000 for her surgery. You have $12,000 saved. No family support. No one to help you. His eyes bored into mine. Which makes you desperate. And desperate people make poor choices. I should have run. Every instinct screamed at me to get up and leave. But Emma's face floated behind my eyes, and I stayed planted in that chair. I'm not here to make poor choices, I said quietly. I'm here to save my daughter. Something flickered across Vincent's face. Respect, maybe. Or recognition of a fellow warrior. The position is live-in nanny for my nephew, Leo. He's 4 years old. His mother, my sister, died 6 months ago. His father is unavailable. The way he said it made clear that unavailable was a polite euphemism for something much darker. Leo needs stability, routine, someone who will care for him, not just watch him. I can do that, I said, and meant it. Caring for children was the one thing I'd never failed at. The pay is $8,000 per month, plus room and board. All expenses covered. However, Vincent's voice took on an edge sharp enough to draw blood. Discretion is not optional. What you see in this house, what you hear, who comes and goes, it stays here. Always. There are no exceptions to this rule, Ms. Bennet. Break it, and, he didn't finish. He didn't need to. I understand, I whispered. Do you? Vincent stood, moving around the desk with predatory grace. He stopped in front of me, close enough that I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. Let me be very clear. I am not a good man. The things I do, the world I live in, they are not clean or pretty. But I protect what's mine with everything I have. Leo is mine. If you hurt him, betray my trust, put him in danger in any way, I wouldn't. The words came out fierce, surprising both of us. I know what it's like to love a child so much you'd burn the world down to keep them safe. I would never, never hurt him. Vincent studied me for a long moment. Then, impossibly, he smiled. You start Monday. I'll wire an advance of $30,000 to your account today. For Emma's surgery. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. $30,000? But I haven't even started yet. I haven't. Consider it an investment, Vincent said, returning to his desk. In your loyalty. You'll work it off. But your daughter needs surgery now, not in 6 months when you've earned it. Tears burned behind my eyes. I blinked them back furiously, refusing to break down in front of this dangerous, confusing man who'd just handed me a lifeline when no one else would. Thank you, I managed. You have no idea what this, I know exactly what it means, Vincent interrupted, something haunted flickering through his expression. Go be with your daughter, Ms. Bennett. We'll see you Monday. I left that office feeling like I'd just signed a contract with the devil. But Emma was going to live, and that was all that mattered. I had no idea the price I'd actually agreed to pay. Leo Romano had his uncle's eyes and his mother's smile, or so Vincent told me the first day, his voice going rough when he mentioned his sister. The boy was small for 4, with dark curls that refused to be tamed and a way of looking at the world like it had betrayed him. Leo, Vincent said gently, crouching to the boy's level. This is Ms. Chloe. She's going to be staying with us, taking care of you while I'm working. Leo looked at me with those 2 old eyes and whispered, Is she going to leave too? My heart cracked clean through. I knelt down so we were eye level. I'm not going anywhere, I said softly. I promise. I have a little girl named Emma who's almost your age. Maybe someday you can meet her. Something shifted in Leo's expression. She won't think I'm weird? Why would she think you're weird? Because I don't talk much. The other ladies said I was too quiet. Too sad. His voice dropped. Uncle Vincent fired them. Well, I think quiet is perfectly fine, I said. And sad is okay too. Sometimes we need to be sad before we can be happy again. Leo studied me, then slowly reached out and took my hand. His palm was small and warm in mine, and just like that, I was in love with this broken little boy who'd lost his mother too soon. The first month passed in a blur of routine. Wake at 6, make breakfast, get Leo ready for pre-K, manage the household during the day, pick up Leo, homework, dinner, bath, bedtime stories. Vincent was gone more than he was home, returning at odd hours smelling of expensive scotch and sometimes, though he tried to hide it, blood. I didn't ask questions. That was the cardinal rule. Eyes down, mouth shut, questions buried 6 feet under. But I noticed things. The men who came and went at all hours, speaking in low voices that cut off when I appeared. The phone calls Vincent took behind closed doors, his voice going cold and lethal. The way tension hung in the air some mornings like smoke after gunfire. And I noticed Vincent himself. The way he was with Leo, infinitely patient, reading bedtime stories in a voice that lost its dangerous edge. How he'd come home after what were clearly brutal days and still force himself to smile when Leo ran to hug him. The exhaustion that lived behind his eyes, the weight of an empire balanced on shoulders that should have crumbled but somehow never did. You're staring, Vincent said one night. I'd been getting water from the kitchen at 2 a.m., and he'd materialized like a ghost, still in his suit, tie loosened, looking utterly wrecked. Sorry, I stammered. Are you okay? He laughed, but there was no humor in it. That's not a question you ask me, Ms. Bennett. Chloe. Just Chloe. I set down the glass. And maybe it should be. Vincent looked at me like I was something unexpected and possibly dangerous. You should be careful, Chloe. Getting involved in things that aren't your concern. Leo is my concern. And he needs you. I took a breath, pushing past fear. He needs you healthy and whole, not running yourself into the ground. I'm fine. You're bleeding through your shirt. Vincent glanced down, noticing for the first time the dark stain spreading across his ribs. It's nothing. Let me see. Chloe, let me see, or I'm calling an ambulance. I crossed my arms, trying to look stern instead of terrified. Your choice. For a moment, I thought he'd refuse. Then, surprisingly, he unbuttoned his shirt, revealing a muscled torso marred by bruises and a knife wound that definitely needed stitches. Jesus, I breathed. This is not nothing. I've had worse. That's not comforting. I grabbed the first aid kit from under the sink, one I'd noticed was suspiciously well stocked, and gestured to a chair. Sit. Vincent sat. And as I cleaned and stitched his wound with hands that only shook a little, I felt something shift between us. Something dangerous that I absolutely could not afford to feel. Why are you really here, Chloe? Vincent asked quietly, his eyes on my face as I worked. With a man like me, in a house like this? I told you. My daughter, no. That's why you took the job. I'm asking why you're still here. You've made enough to cover Emma's surgery. You could leave. I tied off the last stitch, meeting his gaze. Because Leo needs me. And maybe, I swallowed hard, maybe you do too. Vincent's hand came up, cupping my cheek with surprising gentleness. You should run from me, Chloe Bennett. I'm not one of your rescue projects. Too late, I whispered. I'm already here. He leaned in, and I knew I should pull away, should remember who he was and what he did. But when his lips met mine, soft and desperate and heartbreakingly tender, I kissed him back like he was air and I'd been drowning. We pulled apart, both breathing hard. Vincent's forehead rested against mine. This is a mistake, he murmured. Probably, I agreed. You could get hurt. I'm already hurt. Life hurt me long before I met you. Vincent laughed, the sound rusty like he'd forgotten how. Okay then. Let's make mistakes together. And God help me, that's exactly what we did. The next 3 months were the strangest, most wonderful, most terrifying of my life. By day, I was Leo's nanny, reading stories, teaching him to tie his shoes, celebrating when he finally laughed at one of my terrible jokes. By night, after Leo was asleep, Vincent and I would find each other in the quiet spaces of that big house, stealing moments that felt stolen from someone else's life. He never told me details about his work, and I never asked. But I learned him in other ways. Learned that he took his coffee black with 1 sugar. That he had a scar on his shoulder from when he was 16 and stupid, his words. That his sister had been everything good in his life, and losing her had nearly broken him completely. Leo is all I have left of her, Vincent told me one night, his head in my lap as I ran fingers through his hair. If anything happened to him, nothing will, I said firmly. He's safe here. You've made sure of that. Safe. Vincent laughed bitterly. No one in my world is truly safe, Chloe. That's the problem. The enemies, the rivals, they're always looking for weakness. And Leo, his voice cracked, he's the biggest weakness I have. Loving someone isn't weakness, I said quietly. It's the only thing that makes us strong enough to survive. Vincent looked up at me with those green eyes that saw too much. Is that what this is? Love? My heart stuttered. We'd been dancing around the word for weeks, both too afraid to say it out loud. Saying it made it real. And real things could be destroyed. Yes, I whispered. I think it is. I love you too, Vincent said, the words sounding like a confession and a curse all at once. God help us both, but I do. He pulled me down, kissing me with something that felt like desperation, and I kissed back with everything I had, trying to memorize this moment before the world inevitably took it away. Because happiness in places like this never lasted. I'd learned that lesson long ago. But what I hadn't learned, what I couldn't have known, was that the real danger wasn't coming from Vincent's enemies at all. It was already inside the house, wearing a smile and waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Emma came to visit on a bright Saturday in March, her recovery from surgery nothing short of miraculous. She ran through the Romano estate like she owned it, all wild blonde curls and boundless energy that made my chest ache with gratitude. Leo and Emma became instant friends, building elaborate block towers and engaging in the kind of imaginative play that only 4-year-olds can manage. Watching them together, seeing Leo laugh and be silly and happy, made me believe maybe this impossible situation could actually work. "She's beautiful," Vincent said, watching Emma explain something very serious to Leo involving a tea party and apparently mandatory princess attendance. "Just like her mother." I leaned into him, letting myself enjoy this perfect moment. "Thank you. For everything. For giving us this chance." "Thank you," Vincent said quietly. "For making this house feel like a home again. For loving Leo. He paused, for loving me, even though you shouldn't." "Too late to stop now," I teased, but my voice caught. Vincent's phone rang, shattering the moment. He glanced at the screen and his entire body went rigid. "I need to take this." He disappeared into his office. Through the closed door, I could hear his voice rising, sharp and dangerous. When he emerged 20 minutes later, he looked like death. "What's wrong?" I asked immediately. "Nothing you need to worry about." But his eyes told a different story. That night, after the children were asleep, I found Vincent in his study, staring at a photograph I'd never seen before. A young woman with dark hair and Vincent's smile. "Your sister?" I asked softly. Vincent nodded. "Sophia." He stopped, his jaw clenching. "She was killed because of me. Because someone wanted to hurt me and she was the easiest target." Cold dread washed over me. "Vincent, the call today," he interrupted, his voice empty. "Someone knows about you. About Emma. They sent photographs. You at the hospital, Emma at her school. They know, Chloe. And if they know," he didn't finish. "He didn't need to." "What do we do?" I whispered. Vincent looked at me with eyes that held grief and fury in equal measure. "You leave. Tonight. I'll set you up somewhere safe, with enough money to start over. But you can't be here anymore." "I can't," his voice broke, "I can't lose you too. I can't let Leo lose someone else he loves. No." The word came out firm, surprising both of us. "I'm not running. Chloe, you don't understand. These people, they will hurt you to get to me. They'll take Emma, use her as leverage, or worse, so we fight," I interrupted. "Together. You said you protect what's yours, Vincent. Well, I'm yours now. Leo is yours. Emma is mine. We protect each other." "You have no idea what you're saying." "Then explain it to me." I moved closer, taking his face in my hands. "Stop protecting me from the truth and just tell me." So he did. For the first time, Vincent told me everything. The business he'd inherited from his father. The territory wars, the power plays, the enemies who would stop at nothing to see him destroyed. And the target that loving him had painted on my back. When he finished, I was shaking, but not from fear. From anger. "Who sent the photographs?" I asked. "That's not, who, Vincent?" He hesitated, then, "Probably the Moretti family. They've been trying to edge into our territory for months. This is exactly their style. Then we end them first." Vincent actually laughed. "You're talking about going to war with a Mafia family, Chloe. You, a nanny who has everything to lose," I interrupted fiercely. "Which makes me more dangerous than you think." Something shifted in Vincent's expression. He looked at me like he was seeing me for the first time. "You're serious?" "Completely. This would mean crossing lines you can't uncross. Becoming part of a world that, I'm already part of it," I said quietly. "The moment I fell in love with you, I crossed that line. So stop trying to protect me from choices I've already made and let me help." Vincent pulled me close, burying his face in my hair. God, you terrify me. Good, I whispered back. We'll be terrifying together. But that night, as I lay in bed replaying the conversation, a thought occurred to me. Something that made my blood run cold. The photographs. The timing. The way Vincent's enemies knew exactly where to look, exactly how to hurt him most. Someone had told them. Someone inside the house had betrayed us. I thought about the staff, the rotating cast of guards and assistants. The people who came and went, privy to details they shouldn't be. And then I remembered Vincent's assistant, Marcus. The man who'd been with the family for 20 years. Who knew everything, saw everything, and had access to information most people didn't. The man who'd been acting strange lately, taking phone calls in hushed voices, disappearing at odd hours. I got out of bed, moving quietly through the dark house. Vincent's office door was ajar, light spilling into the hallway. I pushed it open silently and froze. Marcus stood at Vincent's desk, photographing documents with his phone. Looking for something? My voice cut through the silence like a blade. Marcus spun, his face cycling through surprise, fear, then cold calculation. You should go back to bed, Ms. Bennett. Should I? I stepped into the room, positioning myself between him and the door. Or should I ask what you're doing photographing Vincent's private documents at 3 a.m.? This doesn't concern you. Everything about this family concerns me now. My heart was hammering, but I kept my voice steady. Who are you working for? The Morettas? Marcus laughed, but there was no humor in it. You really think you understand this world? You're a nanny, playing house with a monster. Vincent Romano has destroyed dozens of lives, including your son's, I said quietly, the pieces clicking together. That's what this is about, isn't it? Revenge. Something cracked in Marcus's expression. He was 23 years old. All he did was steal $5,000 from one of Vincent's operations. Kids make stupid mistakes. But Vincent didn't care. He made an example of him. His voice broke. They found my boy in the river, Chloe. Weighted down like trash. Horror and sympathy warred in my chest. I'm sorry. God, Marcus, I'm so sorry. But this, betraying Vincent, putting Leo in danger, your son wouldn't want this. Don't you dare tell me what my son would want, Marcus snarled, pulling a gun from his jacket. You have no idea what loss feels like. I know exactly what loss feels like, I said quietly, my eyes on the weapon. My daughter almost died. I've spent 3 years terrified of losing her. And I would burn the world down to keep her safe. So yes, I understand your pain. But killing Vincent won't bring your son back. It'll just create more grief, more loss. And Leo, he's 4 years old, Marcus. He's innocent. Please don't make him pay for his uncle's sins. For a moment, I thought I'd reached him. His hand wavered, the gun lowering slightly. Then Vincent's voice cut through the moment like thunder. Step away from her, Marcus. He stood in the doorway, his own weapon drawn, his face a mask of cold fury. Behind him, 3 of his men materialized like deadly shadows. It's over, Vincent said quietly. Put down the gun. You killed my son, Marcus said, his voice breaking. You took everything from me. I know. And Vincent's voice held genuine regret. And I'm sorry. Truly. But I can't let you hurt my family. Family? Marcus laughed bitterly. You don't deserve a family. You destroy everything you touch. Then I'll destroy you too, Vincent said flatly. Last chance, Marcus. Put down the gun. Time seemed to suspend. Marcus looked at me, at Vincent, at the life he'd built over 20 years of service. Then, slowly, he set the gun on the desk and raised his hands. Vincent's men moved in, restraining Marcus efficiently. As they led him away, Vincent's eyes found mine across the room. "Are you hurt?" he asked, his voice rough. I shook my head, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. Vincent crossed to me in 3 strides, pulling me into his arms so tightly I could barely breathe. When I heard voices, when I saw him with that gun, he pulled back, cupping my face with shaking hands. "Don't ever scare me like that again." "I had it under control," I managed. "You confronted an armed traitor alone." "That is the opposite of control, Chloe." "Well, I wasn't going to let him steal your secrets and just walk away," I said, trying for lightness and failing completely. The adrenaline was crashing now, leaving me shaky and cold. Vincent held me while I trembled, murmuring things in Italian I didn't understand but felt in my bones. Safe. Protected. Loved. Later, much later, after Marcus had been dealt with, I didn't ask how, Vincent and I sat in his study, the same room where everything had nearly gone so wrong. "He was right, you know," Vincent said quietly. "About me being a monster. About destroying things." "You're not a monster," I said firmly. "You're a man trying to protect what's his in an impossible situation. There's a difference." "Is there?" Vincent's smile was bitter. "I've done terrible things, Chloe. Things that would make you run if you knew." "Then tell me," I challenged. "Tell me the worst thing you've ever done." Vincent was quiet for so long I thought he wouldn't answer. "Then, when I was 25, a rival family kidnapped Sophia. They wanted ransom, territory, concessions. My father was already dying, the family was in chaos, and they saw weakness." His jaw clenched. "I got her back. But the things I did to make that happen, the people I hurt," he stopped, his hands curling into fists. "I became exactly what they accused me of being. A monster who valued revenge over mercy." "Did you get your sister back alive?" I asked quietly. "Yes." "Then you did what you had to do to save someone you loved." "That doesn't make you a monster, Vincent. That makes you human." He looked at me with something like wonder. "How can you see all of me, all the darkness, the violence, and still look at me like that?" "Like what?" "Like I'm worth saving." I moved closer, taking his scarred hands in mine. "Because you are. Because underneath everything, you're a man who reads bedtime stories in funny voices. Who pays for a stranger's daughter's surgery because he knows what it means to be desperate. Who would die to protect the people he loves." I held his gaze. "That's the man I see, Vincent. And that's the man I love." Vincent kissed me then, deep and desperate, and I kissed back, pouring every ounce of feeling into it. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against mine. "Marry me," he whispered. I froze. "What?" "Marry me, Chloe. Let me protect you and Emma properly. Let me make you part of this family officially, so no one can ever use you against me without starting a war they can't win." That's possibly the least romantic proposal in history, I managed, but my heart was racing. Vincent laughed, the sound rusty but genuine. "You're right. Let me try again." He slid off the couch, kneeling in front of me, taking my hands. "Chloe Bennett, you walked into my life when I'd forgotten how to live in it. You love my nephew like he's yours. You see past the monster to the man underneath. You make me want to be better, do better, for you and for the family we could build together." His voice went rough with emotion. "I'm not promising you easy, or safe, or normal. But I'm promising you every piece of me, the good and the broken, for as long as we both live. Will you marry me?" The tears came then, hot and fast, blurring my vision. "Yes," I whispered. "God help us both, but yes." Vincent pulled me down, kissing me like I was oxygen and he'd been drowning. And maybe we both were, drowning in circumstances that should have destroyed us but somehow made us stronger instead. Later that night, as I checked on Leo one final time before bed, I found Emma's blanket on the floor of Vincent's room. The sight of it, that soft pink fabric that had comforted my daughter through surgeries and nightmares, made me smile. Our families were already blending, merging in ways both strange and perfect. Emma and Leo, Vincent and me, building something new from the broken pieces we'd all carried for too long. I heard footsteps behind me. Vincent appeared, wrapping his arms around my waist, his chin resting on my shoulder. "What are you thinking?" he murmured. "That this is insane," I said honestly. "That I should probably be terrified. That everything about this situation violates every common sense rule that exists. But I've never been happier in my entire life." Vincent turned me in his arms, his green eyes soft in the dim light. "Neither have I. And I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret saying yes." "I know you will," I whispered, meaning it. Because loving Vincent Romano meant living in a world of danger and shadows. But it also meant belonging somewhere, being protected fiercely, and building a family from the ashes of our separate tragedies. 3 months later, we married in a small ceremony with just Leo, Emma, and a handful of Vincent's most trusted people present. I wore a simple white dress, Emma scattered rose petals, and Leo served as the very serious ring bearer who took his job with adorable intensity. As Vincent slid the ring on my finger, promising to love and protect me until death, I thought about the journey that had brought me here. From desperate single mother to wife of a mafia boss seemed impossible. But standing there, surrounded by the family we'd built from broken pieces, it felt right. "I love you, Mrs. Romano," Vincent whispered against my lips. "I love you too," I whispered back. "Now and always." Leo and Emma cheered, and somewhere in that moment, the weight I'd carried for years, the fear, the loneliness, the certainty that I'd have to face everything alone, finally lifted. I wasn't alone anymore. We had each other. And in this dangerous, beautiful world Vincent inhabited, that love was the most powerful weapon we possessed. 6 months after the wedding, Emma started calling Vincent Daddy, and Leo started calling me Mama Chloe. Vincent's remaining enemies learned quickly that threatening the Romano family was a death sentence. We became untouchable, not through violence, but through the fierce unity we'd forged. And sometimes, late at night when everyone was asleep, Vincent and I would sit in his study, the same room where Marcus had betrayed us, where Vincent had proposed, and just exist together in comfortable silence. "Do you ever regret it?" Vincent asked one night. "Choosing this life?" I thought about it seriously, giving him the honesty he deserved. "I regret that Emma and Leo will grow up knowing their father's business involves danger. I regret that I can't give them normal." I turned to face him fully. "But I don't regret loving you. I don't regret the family we've built. And I don't regret becoming strong enough to survive in your world." "Our world," Vincent corrected gently. "This is our world now, Chloe. You're not just surviving in it, you're ruling it beside me." And he was right. Somewhere along the way, I'd stopped being Vincent Romano's nanny and become his partner in every sense of the word. I attended meetings, offered counsel, and learned to navigate the complex politics of his world with surprising skill. But more than that, I'd learned my own worth. The parents who'd called me a failure, who'd slammed the door on their pregnant daughter, they'd been wrong. I wasn't a mistake or a disappointment. I was a mother, a wife, a woman who'd survived impossible circumstances and come out stronger on the other side. And sometimes, late at night, I'd stand in Emma's room watching her sleep, healthy and whole and safe, and whisper thank you to the universe for putting that classified ad in my path. For leading me to Vincent. For giving me a second chance at family and love and belonging. My name is Chloe Romano, and this is my truth. Sometimes the most dangerous choice you can make is also the right one. Sometimes falling in love with a monster reveals he was a man all along. And sometimes, the family you build from broken pieces is stronger than the one you were born into. I never meant to fall in love with Vincent Romano. But standing here now, in this life we've created together, I wouldn't change a single moment.